to be honest with you, I've always had these assumptions, right? Of things about just not just you as a person with the music, but you as a person, some of the struggles, some of the things you've been through, some of the fights. And so after doing a little bit of homework, I realized that my story was very incomplete with what I really knew about you and how in some ways we sort of relate as far as being like a PK and like all these other things that I was just like, oh, snap, I didn't know she was like that. And then it started to all connect. So to say this interview for me is huge because, not just because we're talking and because I feel you're extremely talented, but more because your story is phenomenal and like more people need to know it. Yes, the music is dope and you can spit and I know all that. And that's not something I haven't dealt with before, pero I think just the story aligned with the music is such a beautiful and unique thing. And even in today's world, like people really need to hear, because I feel like you're set for a certain amount of people that not everybody can deal with. And so the reason why I say that is because, and you were saying this right before we jumped on, is so you put up, no, actually, I don't know if you did or this person I know, this producer down here that I know, put up like an image and he was like on IG stories and he just showed like a crack, or I think it was you put like a crack of a studio you were in Miami. And I knew automatically whose house it was, who you were at and who you were working with. And like, I've been down here a long time. Like, and so everybody as a producer who was down here, like usually somebody calls me, oh, yo, Anita's down here in Miami. You should come check them out, say hi, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And so I'm not going to lie. When I saw it, I text the person, right? It's Ray King. I was like, yo, Ray King, Ada Betsabe, is that your crib? You know, like, is that what's happening? And he's like, yeah, man, she's dope, blah, 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 whatever. We started talking. And at first I was afraid for you because I was like, this is because I didn't know your story. Like I knew a piece of your story. I didn't know your whole story. So the assumption of what I thought, I was like, oh, Lord, because Ray King is unique. He's special. He's not for everybody. And it's okay. I love Ray King like that because Ray King is not here for everybody. He's here for a certain amount of group of people. And if you really do your homework on Ray King and you do a little backtrack, you'll really realize where he comes from and how his mom and his old boy don't play and how they are really set on certain things in his life. And it's sort of catapulted the way he moves and maneuvers. Fine, point. So at that point, I'm like, oh my God, Ada Betsabe is over there with that guy. Cuidado, you know what I mean? But yeah, like I'm like, it's a wrap. And then in a way, I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, well, no, man, because honestly, Ray is just different. And he's really creative. He knows his stuff and he's always around different stuff. And so to me, like I had a couple of seconds and then I was like, well, I think it'll be okay. I think she'll be okay. Like, I don't think it's gonna be that crazy. Cause you know, you're assuming, you're like, oh, loco. Yeah. And then and then so that happened. And then I dug a little deeper into your story. And then it started all connecting, like all for me. Like I was like, oh snap. Now
you were like, okay, she can handle it.
Yeah. This is
got the little grit.
To me, it was like, nah, this is a joke compared to what she's been through and through relajo. Like it's not that serious. And so it all got me thinking and really realizing that you're here for a set group of people. Like you are here, and it's taking me time. And listen, I meet a lot of female MCs, and they're set for the church and whatever. But you're not. Yes, you are in a way, but in a way you're not. You're set for a group of people that not everybody's meant to deal with. And to me, that's like me. Like when I started in radio, it took me years to get on. Like, I mean, I went to a white station. They were like, bro, you sound too worldly. And then I went to the Spanish and they were like, you sound too secular. And then it was just no one like ever. And I would go to the secular events and MC with other DJs and they'd be like, bro, why are you not on a secular station? Bro, because I'm a Christian, bro, and I'm trying to follow Jesus here. Like, this is not really what I'm. And it took a while until I realized where I fit in and then what my voice was and my identity and what God wanted me to do. And so, like, when I look at you, I'm like, yo, I know you've been through some fire because I listened and I paid attention and I did a little research and I was like, whoa, this female has been through some crazy stuff. And I'm like, this is why, to me, this interview, because I can sit here and we can talk 10 minutes, 15 minutes about a single, a record, and some MCs, and that's cool. But at the end of the day, like, I feel like we can talk about that. But at the same time, I think your story has a tremendous amount of weight. And at this point in my life, in this season of my life, when I started in radio 15 years ago, I was just excited about what record you had and what you could give me that I could go feature to the masses and they can go get excited. But now seeing you now, I'm like, no, she has this coveted diamond. And especially where you're at in your season of your life, I think it's perfect and it's God's timing. So where you're at. And so I think where I want to start, and I think this is like special for me, is to know, and this is why I know that this interview will be good for me, because we can speak in a language that not everybody is cool with and not open to being honest about. And it took me years to develop that, because I can't do that with everybody. Sometimes I have to be real corporate and give them the nice churchy answer and the real corporate. Yo sé que contigo, that's not the case.
None of that.
And I know that's not you. And you don't pursue that stuff. Actually, you run away from it more than ever, because you've just been through all that. You've seen all that, and being around church and learning the lingo and seeing the vaina. You're done with that stuff. You're not interested.
I've had my share of it. It's, it's good for what it's good for.
Yeah, it's good for
it's good for what it's good for. But for overall just MO and for my life, it doesn't apply to what I believe, or it doesn't necessarily help me walk on the path that I believe I'm supposed to be on. You know what I'm saying? Most of the time, because when you go to when you go to like a jail or like a place where people are unchurched, all of that stuff that it doesn't mean anything if you can't have a conversation and actually give them a practical understanding of what it means to be called, chosen, or even needy, like point them first to their need, right? So that they can see that they have a need before you even come and tell them, here's who's gonna meet your need. Most of these people don't even understand the need they have. And so when you come like right off the cut with the, like that don't work. But sometimes you got to put that hat on, because people be trying to play you.
Yeah.
Church people be trying to play you. Exactly. So you gotta keep them rocks, you know what I'm saying? Them little stones in your slingshot, just in case, like, oh, okay, but like in 1 Corinthians, it says this. So like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, it's right here.
Listen, you said something in this interview that I resented, that it just resonated a lot with me. And I think a lot of people that are going to watch this and get to really understand. And I think there's breakthrough in it. You said in this interview, in a place that, and I'm paraphrasing, you didn't say it exactly like this, but it's almost how you broke it down. It said, in the place I felt the most pain, church members is the same people who helped me heal and bring me peace. So the same place where I felt a tremendous amount of pain, where people did me dirty in church, or they threw their back on me, is the same place. And the reason why I'm saying this quote is because you made a really strong point at the end of that statement to say that I still love the bride, regardless of how dirty church people have done me and the politics and blah, 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 blah. And so I've been there. And so I wanted to hear from you where you are in this season of life when it comes to that, and still dealing, because you just said it a second ago. You were like, yeah, you still got to keep those rocks there, or you still got to keep that there just in case someone comes at you different or wild. How has that been for you now, especially with a statement like that and saying that? Because in this interview that I heard, and it was a young lady from the UK, you did this interview with her, and it was really long, it was really powerful, and you touched some really deep stuff, but you really said, you were like, listen, man, I don't want to come off like this salty person that dislikes the church. Although they did me dirty, I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna lay all my cards out. Yeah, they did me dirty, da. But I said, how were you able to find that still to this day? And how do you deal with that as far as like being a believer and still dealing with church folks?
Wow, that's a great question. I think that what has happened to me, so I grew up a pastor's kid. My dad is and was a pastor. His dad is and was a pastor when I was, young. So I grew up around just people and not just the aspect of like, okay, coming in and being in community, but I was on the side of, oh, I don't have extracurricular activities in school because we need to be at church, So for me, from a very, very young age, I saw the parallel of like you know, the kid who doesn't have all of these church responsibilities and the kid who does. And I unfortunately felt like I had the short end of the stick because I wasn't able to be a part of so many things. Y eso es solamente based on timing now, you know, having time. Now, if we based it now on morals and on beliefs, there was so many other things that I also wasn't participating in because of that, right?
Yeah.
Eso del diablo, you know, somebody gives me something, that's the devil. Like, let me look at the back. The patent has a 6 in it. Nah, we out. So, you know, things like that. And just the lack of knowledge, of understanding, right? That's what I think has hurt me and many other people. I don't think that it's necessarily, oh, the church has done me dirty. I think it's the church is composed of people that are broken in different ways than you. And so the way that they're broken in might trigger you, right? Because you're not broken in that way. So where I am right now, I'll tell you just straight. So I left my that whole world when I was like 16. I mean, I was like just living my life, just drinking, smoking, partying, whatever's clever. Music was always like the constant for me. It was, you know, from being in the church, leaving, music was the only one thing that remained. Like between moving and different relationships with different people, men, women, and just being involved in different lifestyles, music was just that one, like, and then one day I realized like this is the one thing that's here, right? And God used that to help me find him. And so I have so much love for the way that God encounters people outside of the church, because the truth of the matter is that we have named church to a building, to an organization, to a business, a corporate organization that pays taxes, that gets tax breaks, that if, you know, the state of California, the state of Florida says, we decided that everybody over 100 members is going to have to do this, this, and this, and this. A lot of people are shook because they owe it to them. You know what I'm saying? And like all of a sudden, we don't even go to God and ask God what he thinks because we need to do this because this is what it is. So when you look at it from that perspective, you can't even get mad anymore because it's an organization like every other. You know what I'm saying? It's just like if I worked at Walmart and Walmart was like, you need to wear a mask every day. Like, okay, well, this is my job. I ain't trying to lose it. So I understand that there's a lot of people who are within the organized system of church and, you know, all different denominations who submit to things because of the organizational structure of where they're at. And in a way, I agree with that being okay, because I think that we're called to be, to walk in a level of humility where we know how to, you know, eat the meat and spit out the bone type of thing. But if your calling and what God's called you to do in life starts to clash with any of the norms or rules or expectations of that said organization, whether it be a church or a job or a relationship, then you have to choose what way you're going to go, which master you're going to serve. So where I'm at right now with that is I consider myself a contributing member of the body of Christ. Why? Not because I'm an artist and because I'm doing an interview with you, but because like when somebody next to me, first of all, because I'm called, I'm chosen, I'm his daughter, like that's the basic, right? But when, you know, random stranger next to me is like, yo, I'm going through this, my first thought is like, let me pray for you. Let me bring you into a place of like community. And that may be just me and them. It doesn't need to be 10,000 people, 5,000 people. I love those places, but those places oftentimes are like dupes for the real thing. I feel like God has a different level. And so to that, I want to say, yes, the church that hurt me is a church that healed me, because I realized that although they want us to believe that the church is a building, it's too big to be contained in a building. It can't be contained in a building. Amen. So when people say, I'm church hurt, I'm not going to go to church, it's like, okay, that's cool, but you could get hurt outside too. Yeah. And you could get healed outside just like you could get healed inside.
Good perspective. If anybody who's checking us out, if you don't know, this is Ada Betsabe, producer, artist. She does a bunch of different things. And so before I did that nice intro and that all stuff, I just thought we had to get in there because she has really good stuff. One of the reasons why I was so compelled and so excited about this interview was because there's this thought that I had and I wasn't 100% sure of it. I was like, I think I heard about that she was this one in her past life, or she wasn't, or she was, or no sé qué. And I wasn't sure. And then you did this interview, and I was like, you let everybody know, okay, this is what I was. This is what God liberated me from. And I'll be honest with you, I'm uneducated in certain areas when it comes to that. But something in my childhood really educated me to understand, respect, and still like, although at the time being in church, we didn't know how to maneuver it, because it's like I was at a rajatabla church that was like, oh, you're dealing with homosexuality, you're el diablo, and you would be set to the side.
Mm.
When I was young in my neighborhood here in Miami, okay, there was a guy, a young dude, he was about 17, and he was gay. And dude was with all the boys hanging, but he was gay. Like, he let everybody know. He had maneuvers. He would say certain things. We would laugh. But there was moments in our childhood, 17, I mean, I think at 14 to 17, where there was moments where he would be honest about how broken he was. Like, we would be sitting down, eating whatever, we would be eating chips or whatever, soda on the street corner. And he would straight up break down and tell us, I'm dealing with this, I'm dealing with that. And he would leave this facade and really tell us, yo, internally, I'm broken in this area and these things are happening. And so it taught me a couple of things, because I was going to church. I've been in church all my life, but I knew in church, it was at that time, Ada, when I was young, it was like a hush hush thing. Like, no one was really saying anything. There wasn't a lot of people didn't even educationally know how to deal with it, maneuver, walk people through in love. Like, that wasn't happening. It was like, you got extra community. You know how it is. Dominican churches, Hispanic churches excommunicate you, whoop, and they put you to the side. And so I say all that to say this. So I heard about your story, and then I heard about the breakthrough. And so at some point, people can go check out, and I don't know if you have that anywhere or you don't, but I wanted to know how you still, because I got friends and I got homies, and some of them are like, yo, loco, I used to smoke weed like crazy. I met Jesus, I was still smoking weed. And it took a while before, Jesus convicted me to get off the spliff and be like, I'm not smoking that. God liberate. Like, one day God was like, all right, we're done. We're not doing this. Sometimes it doesn't happen at the Sunday service. Cuando la música está tocando a certain way and the dude touches you on the forehead, you do a Harlem shake, boom, you fall back, boom, you liberate. It doesn't happen like that all the time. Some people, it has to go through a process.
We're complex. Yo, we're complex people. We're complex people. There's layers to this. And yeah, I mean,
so my question before I cut you is not to say, because, like, I think to me, like, it was interesting to know how, one, you walked through it, how you went through it. Because I heard the transition of, at the time, you and your partner, and then eventually both of you guys got saved. And then at that time you transitioned, boom, y'all separated, whatever. I wanted to hear a little bit of the process of what that looked like, the transitional part of it, and still how you deal with it to this day. Or is it to the point where, because I know some people will tell me like, it's free. I don't even have the thought. Blah, 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 blah. I wanted to hear from
those
you.
People.
Yes.
more power to them.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly. So I wanted to hear from your heart, because one, like, I have a family member right now that I love tremendously. That is in that community. And I love them tremendously. I don't judge them. Sometimes it's stuff they say to me, like, I'm like, yo, you're a female, you're talking to me like you're a dude, like, relax. You know what I mean? But I can, and there's been moments, we've had
like
moments.
You trying to square up.
You want to really fight. But I want to hear from you. I think that to me, like, this stuff is powerful, because when people get to hear the process, the ugly stuff, and I'm not saying you got to get graphical. I'm just saying, like, so people understand, because this is real, like, faith walk is real. Yeah, it's not on, you just give me a Bible verse and pray over me and we're done. I wanted to hear from you, because I think, like, a lot of people will tiptoe around it, but won't really, like, say, loco, ¿qué fue el proceso que me hizo sudar la gota gorda, to, like, understand how God is breaking me through it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, nah, I've always been pretty, like, open with it. I think that when I first got saved, I was maybe a little too open, because I wasn't ready for the backlash of when, you have that first love and you're like, yo, God is doing so many things in my heart right now. I'm seeing things I didn't see before. Like, this cup was right here this whole time. I never saw it. Now I see it. And having all that I was 23 years old. I was in a relationship that was the best and only relationship that I had, where somebody wasn't beating me up, and, you know, someone who was genuinely loving me well, right? Loving me to the extent that she was able to love me. But still, that was better than anything I even saw growing up from between heterosexual people in ministry, right? I ain't see a lot of things, right? And so I want to preface by saying this. I'm a Christian that believes in the gospel of self-denial and self-restraint. So everything that I'm going to say is shaped from that place. I don't believe that, you know, the gospel is about me coming into this kingdom where everything is for me and there's nothing I have to do. I know that it's free, and, you know, we can never pay for salvation. We can never pay for the things that Jesus bought for us on the cross, but there is a cost to be able to follow him. You know, there's no cost to meet him, but to follow him, he says, carry your cross, deny yourself, carry your cross, and follow me. And so for me, the process has been the self-denial. That is the process. I think that oftentimes we tell people, you know, God's going to set you free. Él te va a quitar todo eso, ven, especially Latinos, you know, no, ven, que Dios te va. And then somebody come and they sweating, you know, and they spitting all over you. You opening the umbrella in the first row, like, just, bro. And then, you know, they pushing you down your neck, and then you fall to the ground, and then you get up and you feel really dope that day. You feel like a spiritual high, you know, and then the next morning you wake up and you have a vulnerability hangover because you just had all these conversations about your personal life with some stranger who, you know, saw in the spirit. And I believe I'm in a supernatural school. So, like, I believe in that stuff, but I also believe that there's restraint there too. Everything you see is not for you to say. And sometimes it's about a show about, oh yeah, I see you over there in the back. I see that. And it's like, bro, you could have probably blessed her more by taking her to the coffee shop and telling her over some coffee what God was speaking, because you just embarrassed the crap out of her right now. She ain't never going to step back in this building, you know? And so I'm in a space where I'm like, right now, yeah. So I'm pretty much, how do I explain where I am as far as my heart goes? So I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that I have not looked at a woman since I got saved. Because if I told you that, I'll be lying to you. Like, that's a lie. I did that for what, 16, 17, 18, 19, 21, probably like close to 10 years, you know, 9 years. I did that. And that was something that I was completely not convicted about for that time, or for a lot of that time. So for me to come out of that or come into the kingdom and then say, oh yeah, all of a sudden this stuff goes away. Like, no, my mind needed to be renewed to the truth. And one of the truths that I had to renew my mind to was that, one, I deserve and I'm worthy of receiving love from a man. That's something that I didn't think I deserved or that I was worthy of. And then the second part was, well, if I do get that, do I know how to respond to that? And am I woman enough to be what he will need as a man? And so those insecurities are probably the biggest chunk of my process has been dealing with those. Because when I was in that relationship and, you know, I had my whole encounter with God, which was a very radical encounter. I was in LA doing some stuff out there, music industry stuff, and I ended up with the wrong crowd. And next thing you know, I freaked out and I'm like, yo, I'm not a thug. I thought it was a thug. I'm not a thug. I'm not a thug. Like, I'm not doing this. So anyway, I go home, I tell her about it. I started going through, you know, counseling therapy, because it was just such a heavy thing on my mind and my mental health. And through, you know, a series of events, next thing you know, a few months later, we're like, you know, we had a home, like a married home type of thing. And we split, you know, I come out of our bedroom and I had a studio. I created, you know, my own room in my studio. So now we're in the same house in 2 separate rooms. If I told you that I slept in my bed every single night, I would be lying to you, because even though there was that move of faith, that move of wanting to follow Jesus, of saying yes to that, there was also this flesh. And there was days during the month where I was like, oh, I want to cuddle, or I want to be in that space. And so one thing will lead to another, right? And so, and it's not just the physical part. The physical part is a huge part, right? But I think the emotional and mental connection that you create with somebody, that creates a soul tie, right? Where you become intertwined with them. And so it's not just as simple as just being like, okay, we're breaking apart. Like there has to be a process. And I think obviously God really, really blessed me because he gave me the opportunity to be in this with somebody who also saw what I was seeing, and who had an encounter with God as well. And was like, yeah, I found water. We found water. Like we're not getting rid of this water. Like we need to go after this. So that was a journey. That was like about a 2-year journey. And in the middle of that, I started doing missions, not because I wanted to start a ministry, but because I felt so much gratitude that I was like, I need to give back. So I started going overseas and doing these missions, and she was doing them with me too. And God starts to encounter me in the mission field. And he starts to say, you see that little thing that you're using, that little rap? I'm going to use that in a bigger scale. And I'm like shook. I'm like, no, like church people? Nah, like I'm good in the streets. I'll just be out here and just tell people a little bit about my story. And I'm just seeing like the small, like you mean, because if I go there, then you're going to have to like clean me up. Like, nah, I'm dirty. I'd rather stay. And God's like, nah, like, don't worry, I'm going to do it. And so then, about the 2-year mark, we parted ways officially from, living under the same roof. And it was like a real parting of ways. It was like, we're not going to have friendship or anything like that, because it was just hard to have a friendship, going from having like pretty much being wives. We weren't dating, we were living together. We had a life, planned, at least, for the most part. Right. And so everybody, as a woman, I've always wanted to have children. So it was like, okay, I'm in this thing 3 years, 2 years. I was 22. She was a little older. So I was like, okay, maybe. So we had all these plans, right? And I would always feel like, do I want to have like some random dude's sperm? Like, and like, do I want, like, I would always think like, do I want like
it's real.
What about when that kid asked me like, where's my daddy at? Like, where's my dad? And then I'm like, oh, and then here's the other catch, right? And everyone that I'm mentioning, if you guys watch this video, I love y'all. Like, I love all of y'all. But I always had the thought, like, if this, because the one guy that we had thought of, he was like a beautiful man physically, green eyes, but he was also like gay with the husband, with the men. And it was like a kind of like a double date type of thing where like, it was us two and then them two. And the Boston scene, like gay scene, was really booming at the time. And it was just all these events every weekend. And, we would be out, and I would think like, oh, that would be cute. Like we could be a little family. But then I would always go back to but what about when that kid is like 6 or 7 and he's like, I have 2 moms and 2 dads, but the dads are together and the moms are together. Wow. Like I just thought of the confusion. Like if I was confused,
or how you were going to navigate that.
Exactly. And this is the thing, right? There's already enough confusing stuff happening to our children in a heterosexual environment based on the cultural norms that we have, in this society, that to add the element of also having to wonder where you originate from, it's just thinking of that to me is like, I wouldn't want to do that to a kid. I just wouldn't. Like, I'm already mad confused. I'm in my early 20s and I'm confused. Like, I'm not trying to do that to anybody. That's just how I see it.
And I'll be honest with you. I was asking God, I was like, yo, I'm extremely nervous to even tackle this and know where God is going to take it. Cause you can sit here, do all your research, script every conversation and be like, I want to ask this question and this was going to lead to this and blah, 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 blah. And then I was like, nah, God, I'm not. You know what I mean? Like I've been doing this long enough to be like, well, Father, I think what she has is so valuable. And the reason why I say that is, although you gave me that, and I think it's extremely powerful, and I think people will be blessed by it, I want to know and understand, have you walked anybody through something like that now that you've been through that past? Or if you haven't, how would you, if you had to tell a young lady, or it could be a dude who's struggling, they're confused, you know what I mean? How would they in love? Because I'm gonna be honest, a lot of people, especially, and I say this because of this, and I'm that dude, like a lot of church people don't know how to walk people through anything. They don't know how to, it's not even walking, it's showing love before you even have a conversation about anything. Like, it's not even happening, okay? Like, and that's the sad part, because I come from that. Thank God I go to a church where, yes, it's different, the way they approach it, the way they show people, you know what I mean? Yeah, there's just so much, it's a lot, it's complex, and there's so much more to it. But a lot of people aren't even having a simple conversation. They rather excommunicate you. And a lot of people, like I have friends right now, some that are like, they're in that community and they're like, bro, I don't want nothing to do with church. Like, I love church people and I love Jesus, but I can't even have, because they won't even on ground level, they won't even see me as a human. Like, they won't even. And so I wanted to hear what you think would be, or from your experience, not that you're a prophet or you're a pastor, but I think because of your experience, it's valuable to understand how you would at least attempt to walk somebody through it if they're struggling, if they're in the middle parts, if they're still having, because todo el mundo lo tiene, like even me, like I have my own things. I'm a big dude. I'm about to get surgery to get thin and este lo otro. And I've done all this stuff, but I know that even though they're going to make my tummy really small and I'm going to ingest a small amount of food, there's still that guy that loves making tacos and loves making food and doing food vlogging. And I know mentally I've had to recondition. It's a process, but I got to do it. I got a son who's 7 years old, and I have a wife, and I have to make sure I'm here for my family. So if it's food or my family comes first. And so the mental process of it will have to happen. And just like how you're following Jesus and saying, I have to die to self, I wanted to hear what you thought it looked like. Have you walked somebody through it? And if you haven't, what would be that, you know what I mean? How would you, if you could sit with someone and you don't gotta give me the whole 4-point breakdown, but just a breakdown of what you think that would look like.
Well, I've been walking through it myself. So I may not have the most like clean answer, but I will definitely say this. The first thing is identity, right? Because we need to know who we are first in Christ and who he says we are. That's assuming that we care, right? Because we got to be honest. There's people who don't care what God thinks about them. There's people who don't care about, you know, what Jesus did on the cross. They care about maybe, you know, feeling good and saying that, yeah, I talk to God, or like I love God, but like just to say that, but like in a heart, like on a heart level, you know, the Bible says like con su boca me hablan, but their hearts are far from me, right? So I think that assuming that this is somebody who's wholeheartedly wanting to commit to Jesus, then we can have a conversation about walking through. The problem is that the church tries to walk people through things that they're not even wanting to walk through. I would say that's the number one problem. If we deal with that, we literally just got rid of like 75% of the problem, right? And then the other 25 is probably, you know, understanding the lies that I've believed about myself. What are the lies that I believed about myself that have now put me in a position to act out this way? Because I don't believe that homosexuality or same-sex attraction, or I should say, I don't believe same-sex attraction is a sin, but I believe acting upon that. Like if I see this hoodie over here and I'm like, oh, this is somebody's hoodie. I was in the studio with, random story. I was in the studio with this dude, Dante from Maverick one day, and we were just doing something, and he had a hoodie that is a Yeezy hoodie, right? Like the thick, you know, and he had left it on one of the couches and left, and I saw it. And like where I come from, you don't get those, you know what I'm saying? So I was like, and you know, I'm not going to tell you that if you watch it, actually probably not going to watch this, but I'm not saying that I'm trying to jack your hoodie, but if I would have took that hoodie, that's the sin. You know what I'm saying? That was a sin. But just because I saw it and I liked it and I feel like, oh, I would probably look really good in that hoodie, that don't mean that I committed a sin. So we need to free people through love and through embracing them and including them. We need to free them from the burden that they have, because there's a burden that they have just because of what they're thinking. That's not for them to carry. Jesus carried that on the cross. You don't need to carry that. You know what I'm saying? And we need to free them from that. And then now what they're acting out on, that part is something that they have to be committed to walking through and to falling and getting up. Like I didn't when I got out of that relationship, I made like a little pact with my ex, and I was like, yo, like we both, we're like, you're the last woman. And it was maybe even came from our own, you know, closeness that we still had, of just like, I want to set this in stone, like that's it, you're the last. And no, that's not, I would be lying to you if I told you that after that I didn't find myself in situaciones comprometedora with other, women that were attractive, or that were attracted to me, or that was attracted to them. Now, how I handle that, now it's en mi criterio, how I handle that. And so one thing that I would say is forgiveness, right? A huge thing to walk through this, like forgiving yourself for the time that you've seen somebody and you were like, dang, sis, like she got a whole husband and 7 kids, but dang, like, yo, be honest. Like, do guys, just because a man gets married to a woman, does that mean that he doesn't naturally see an attractive woman and say, wow, I wonder, you know what I'm saying? Like, especially in the world we live in, where we're like bombarded with sexual content all the time, and kind of borderline soft porn content. Like every show you watch has, and that's an agenda. I mean, that's like done very intentionally, but every show you watch has like a gay couple, or like, even if it's not a gay couple, the hetero couples, the type of things that are going on, you're like, bro, why do I have to know this? Why do I have to see this? I can't watch this with my little cousins. You know what I'm saying? And so I think forgiving ourselves for the moments that we struggle or stumble, and constantly just getting back up and letting the Lord be strong in our weaknesses. And to keep it a buck, if you need to go, for me, I never considered myself like a full-on lesbian, because I always had like, I dated men before. I just couldn't connect emotionally to men because of my emotional brokenness. And so I kind of had to find this, like my own little formula. So I would date women, and then I would end up hurting them because I would connect to them in every way. And then, but a guy would come that would be super attractive, or that I would connect in a different way, except emotionally. And if he was okay with not connecting emotionally, which unfortunately a lot of guys are, right? I would be like, okay, well, I can have a thing with you. And so, but then this woman here is connected emotionally. So I became this person who was then hurting, my own kind, which then made me feel even worse, because it's like, I'm doing to you what someone did to me. And then just imagine the shame and the guilt and the torture that it was to look at myself in the mirror and be like, dang, I ain't ish, you know what I'm saying? Like, just look at myself in the mirror. And so I think being able to forgive ourselves as we walk through those things, but also having community, healthy community of people who see the woman or the man that you are outside of your struggle, and who call you up to that place, and who say, I know you were out last night, and I know you took a vacation with so-and-so and you came back, but like, come over for dinner on Sunday, because me and my husband and my kids are going to have people over, and we want you over. Like, those people that you can do those healthy, movie nights and just life with. It don't have to be a church conversation. It don't have to be oh, well, First Timothy says that, like, all the time. Just being in community with people who see you. I think it's been the most healing thing for me. I really appreciate relationship. Like, I'm a talker. I'm a communicator. I don't think that I'm called for singleness. I do think there are people who are called for singleness, and that they're just okay with that. I am not okay with that. I think even what I do, like having a companion will be the day that comes in a more like, public way. Because I ain't gonna tell you my private life, but
you get married.
But the day that comes out, more publicly, I think that it's gonna be beautiful, because it's gonna be God's design for me. And I think we're all at the core, just to finish off with my TED talk here. At the core,
you've been good. It's been good.
I think that we crave and we desire companionship, intimacy. But more than that, we just want purpose. We're looking, and we're just trying to find purpose. And so sometimes, I was telling my friend yesterday, There's certain places I don't go to anymore, not because I'm religious or because I'm like super legalistic, but just because if I don't have a purpose walking into that place, guess what? That place has a purpose for me. So either I go in there with a purpose or that thing's going to eat me up with the purpose it has for me. Right. And so the question is this: what is the purpose behind these relationships? Do I have a purpose with this person? And now I'm talking to somebody who's maybe been walking a little bit and is trying to find balance. Maybe just, oh my God, I need discernment. Like I'm going into these things and then I realize, oh my God, like I'm back in square one. Ask yourself, does this align to the purpose that God has for my life? And if it doesn't, you have no business being there. You know, the Bible says, huye de la inmoralidad. It doesn't say try to have a conversation with it. Try to talk it down. Don't talk it down, baby. It's not, you're not gonna be able to talk it down. Like this thing ain't playing. Like
it ain't going nowhere, girl.
No, like don't talk to it. Just just bow out, because there's a reason for it. You know, our bodies, our flesh is weak. You know, our bodies, especially when you've been through it already. Like there's people that I just had to like block them, because like you can't. Yep. You just gotta. I can't lose. I can't risk what God has done and what He's going to continue to do. Like these moments, I can't risk having these moments with you and not with an interview and not being able to be real, because I got a skeleton in my closet and you can see it in my face. Because that's the thing with me too. You can see when I'm going through it.
Like it comes out of your face.
Yeah,
I'll say this, and then we'll transition to the music, which I've enjoyed tremendously, because some of the stuff you said I just wasn't really thinking about. And the fact that you said you have to really care, which I think a lot of people, that sort of passes over the head of a lot of like believers. Like, do you really care? Because what happens is you go to church a long time, you get used to the routine. You know what I mean? And are you really feeling convicted with some of the things? And when you say it, like I think about my own personal life, like, oh Father, like some things I gotta deal with personally on an internal level when it comes to heart, because we all do. And so like, and we'll transition now to the music. I just thought it had a tremendous amount of value, regardless of what anybody may think. The records are dope. Ada is always making music. She's producing. She's doing a lot of great things. And yes, she's itching to give you more and more music. And yes, I'll link it. You'll see it. You'll see her dope video. She's sick with it. Like if she was, first of all, we were doing an interview. She had to be sick, because it's a thing God is working on me. And I'm telling you, honestly, this is a bad thing. And I felt conviction. God has like really worked with me. And I've, even now at my age, I'm like, man, a lot of relationships, I base them on how good or bad that artist was. If their music was good, I was always connected. We were always talking. But if that music, and it was because in my own self like righteousness, I was just worried about, ¿qué canción can I get on the radio that's gonna be dope, that people are gonna love, and they're gonna, you know what I mean? And because the quality standard was high, it rubbed some people wrong, and some people didn't like it. But I knew at the time what I was doing, it was like God driven. And although, because now, how music is, and we're gonna transition into music now, and I'll get into your single, and I just have like one or two questions with music, nothing too crazy that you haven't already answered already. But with music now, I mean, everything is set for you to succeed. There's a tremendous amount of tools for you to do music, and if you're not doing, people are gonna find you. If you do good music, it'll be found. Like, yeah, I mean, people will be like, you got to promo it. Yes, you do, but trust me, if it's hot, people connect. And people find out and people jump on it. And that's how it happens. So if you're watching this, people that are just jumping on right now and seeing Ada Betsabe, she's an artist, producer. That's a tremendous story that I'm like, people are going to be like, Jay, all your interviews are just about music. And this one was so different for me, because when I sat and did my homework, I was like, God, do you really want me to sit here and talk 10, 15 minutes about a song and about hip hop and about, I mean, things that she's already dealt with, like, but do you really want this other part? And although it may not be the most sexiest thing to everybody, I'm like, but I think there's a tremendous amount of power in it. So you have a new single, and we'll talk about it in a second, something that I've seen from you that I commend you for. And we're not going to go into detail because I don't want to tell you that part of my private life with some of the people I've dealt with in the past, as far as like music and industry, blah, blah, blah. Um, yo, you're a go-getter, always fighting, you're always making new music. It seems like there's seasons where you sort of slow down and you're like waiting on God to tell me, okay, this is the way I'm going to maneuver this way or go this way. Um, how have you seen the acceptance of females just in period in CHH? Has it gotten better since when you started, or do you still think there's some funny business when it goes to like you being a female and doing hip hop when it comes to CHH?
I think it's gotten better for sure. Like I don't think it's as bad as it was.
Was it funny in
But
the beginning?
yeah, I think it's just general. That's just the world, right? There's a song, called "It's a Man's World." Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's just life, right? But I think it's gotten way better. However, I will say this: um, a lot of people still use the fact that they have a female on their roster. It's kind of like sometimes it feels like, when a white person tells you, "Well, I'm not racist because I got black friends."
Yeah.
Like
You're
I'm not
telling me
racist.
you're racist right there.
I'm not racist because I got my best friend that I
Yeah,
grew
my
up with.
homeboy, he
Black.
black.
So I
Blah, blah,
can't
blah.
be racist. Like I have a past that says I can't be racist. And so I think sometimes it's like, I'm not sexist and I'm not regarding women as less than because I have a female on my roster, or I've done songs with female artists, or I have a wife, or I have a daughter. And it's like, that's a sorry excuse. So I think there's a lot of room for growth. I think that we've done great in opening, spaces where women could be just accepted and seen. But I think that for us to grow, there's going to need to be unity within us, the women that are already in this. And when I say unity, I'm not talking about, oh, I need one day and I need, Angie, and I need, AI, and I need, so-and-so to put me on a song. That's not what I'm talking about. That's not what I consider unity to be, because you can do a song with somebody all day.
And never
Like
talk to
you
them.
don't even need to meet them. They could send vocals to their A&R, and your A&R send vocal to them, and then you got a song together. Send your promo, send your photo. The designer put y'all in the cover art, like, you look like you're in the same room. And so no, like I'm talking about being able to have these moments of vision being shared. And when somebody tells me, my biggest vision, my biggest goal is to go back to my homeland and to bless 1 million kids with backpacks or something, like those moments, they bring a unity in us that then will translate into the music, and that then will bring, just more opportunity for us to show out and show up for the young girls that are coming up.
Ada, you think the Spanish market is more accepting when it comes to Latinos? Like when we talk about the Christian side, right? And we just spoke about CHH. You think Latinos are more open, like El Lado Dominicano, Lo Boricua? You think they're more open to females, or is it more restricted than CHH with your experience? Because I feel like,
you know what?
there's a couple of girls that are like out there, but not really. Like there's like two that I know really that are like on Redimidos records, blah blah blah, whatever that they put. But it's the same two. Like they don't push nobody else. And so like I wanted to hear what your experience was like on the Spanish side.
On the Spanish side, I feel like there is a level of openness, but it's because the markets are so different. Because you got to think about it like this: like you need a lot more resources in the English side to go somewhere. Like you need a lot more, because it's just more expensive. It's like moving to a neighborhood where all the houses are $1 million versus living in a neighborhood where you could get a nice house for $100K. Like, and so I think that there's a lot more. You need more to do less in the English side, but then on the Spanish, you need less to do more. But there is maybe this is what I think is a big roadblock. It's just the stylistic aspect. Like I would say, like, Latin hip hop that is just, just rap, like rappers.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like women have something to prove in the Latin side, and you have to just come hard and rap, whatever, which is something that I can do, but I sometimes people ask me to do that, and I'm like, just because you asked me to do that, that's what I'm not gonna do. Like, I don't, yeah, like I'm gonna leave some spaces, and so they're just heavy, fast bars, and like Latin America loves that, but I think there is room for growth on stylistic aspect for women. If the women had you know, a little bit more of a grip on the sound, like, you know, just sonically, I think nos quedamos con todo. Like, to
No,
be
porque
real.
you're, es verdad lo que tú dices, because a lot of the Spanish females all sound very similar. Exactly,
Yeah.
like they're all sounding like really hard dudes. Like they all got to spit these bars to fit with all these other dudes that are on here. It's funny you say that because I didn't even really think about that, but you're right. There's a couple of females that I've interviewed, some that are starting to stray away from I gotta sound this way to be
Yeah,
accepted
yeah, yeah.
by men. And so I think that's a positive in the long run because I'm always for there's man, listen, I've interviewed hundreds of artists in 15 years, and females has been really the amount has been really short, sadly. Like, and I always get excited because it's not just that it's a female, it's that girls bring something different to the table. And
Yeah,
some dudes
yeah.
are so hard-headed, they don't get it. Like they don't feel it, they don't see the even in radio, like a dude by himself on a mainstream radio with a female is a different team. That's why I did a morning show in Houston with a female, because girls bring a vibe to it. It's just the opinion, the vibe, the feel, especially if they're Hispanic. And my term, when I was in Houston, I was with Ayana Mack. She's black. So it was a strong black woman, a strong Hispanic dude. We brought a vibe that was different. And so to me, like, that's always why I'm pushing for you. And I didn't want to, that's one thing I was trying to make sure that I didn't do in this interview is like, oh, it's girl power 24/7. Like I was like, yeah, hecho eso 20,000 veces. Like, I'm not interested in that. Eso se puede hablar en otra vaina. Like I wasn't really looking for that. But to end, you have a couple of records out. You said if you want to go check out, you go check out Ada on YouTube. She has a bunch of stuff. If you want, go track back to 7 years. You'll see the progression. She was just spitting all these bars on like dope beats, and then she transitioned to some of her. She has some real nice. Ada does her thing. Okay, she can spit hard like a dude, and she can sing you down. With she can do all kind of stuff. Okay, that's why I love and
Type me
respect
up.
what you do.
I
No,
love it.
it's not even gasoline. It's like you sing, you rap, you can do commercial stuff with Nico Amen. Like you got a variety of stuff. Okay. At one point I was like, all this chick does is spit bars. Like that's all and I was good with it, but I was like, no, I want to hear her do other stuff. And then when I see you like singing Sparrow and doing these, you got to go check out her YouTube. Okay. I'm just pushing it like that because you get to see a variety of what this person is, not just what I'm saying to you. Hay para todo el mundo. Si tú hablas inglés, español, you can get connected one way or another. Last single, and you said, and you sort of swiftly said this, you're like, I've been itching. I haven't been going full force. Because, right, if people that don't know, Ada's in school in California, and God has just been, I'm guessing, her biggest test is just being calm and not going
Oh my
all
God.
the way that she's been wanting to go. But what can people expect from you in the next coming months? Is it just going to be a wow? Are you just waiting right now? I know you're dropping little singles here and there. So go to Spotify,
Yeah.
go check her stuff, go stream it. But so how's that transition happening? Is it after these 2 years you go back full fledged, or are you
Oh yeah,
slowly
for
transitioning?
sure.
For sure, after these
Oh
2 years.
yeah, now no, we going. We going. I'm excited, yo. I'm excited. I have so much to say in the music. Thank you for giving me a space to share my heart outside of the music, because I'm so much more than that. And I think that's one thing I want to say real quick, just for everyone who's an artist. You're more than your art. You're more than
Yeah.
what you create. You're more than what you can do. You without that is already enough. And that's just the extra, right? And so I think sometimes we find so much identity in all these things. And for me, it was hard at first. Just you start to get a bunch of people, nadie te conoce, and then overnight, all of these people on your inbox, like, yo, your songs, and you just start to feel like, oh wow, look at this. En el momento que yo no hago eso, all of a sudden I feel empty. And so I think these 2 years have been a time where God has really allowed me to see how valuable I am to him and to the kingdom, even without that. So that now when that comes, and it continues to come, more heavy in my life, I'm not going to be, just pushed to the side when, an interview doesn't go through, or I don't get booked for, somebody puts me on a song. I got put on a song with a major artist, and like 6 months later, 5 months later, they hit me up and they were like, we took your verse off the song. And
Yo.
so, stuff like that, you don't expect stuff like that to happen to you. Because first of all, for me to even be on that was huge. Like, who the heck am I to be on there, right? But then to be taken off of it was something else. And so I think, yeah, it's important for people to know that you're more than your art, you're more than your music. I'm definitely coming through with the music though. With that being said,
Yeah.
I have a project out, Masterpiece is my most recent full project. I'm such a concept album type of person. I love that. I know it's a singles market. I know, you know, we doing radio and all that, but like there's something about concept, you know, just carried out. So yeah, that's a Spanish hip hop, Latin hip hop project, Masterpiece. My last single was Alarma. It dropped end of last year, and I haven't dropped anything in 2022 yet. So it's coming soon.
Listen, Ada, I always ask artists this, and I want to say this before I forget this other thing I was going to say. Is one is that it took me years to figure out like my identity and like and not find myself like what you just said, not
Mm,
find myself in my art and identify myself by that and
yeah,
say
yeah,
Jay Manuel, like my real name is Manuel, and so like people don't just they just know Jblaze, and so they don't know me for real. And it took me a long time, even in ministry, to figure out who I really was, and that I no longer cared what people thought, and I moved in a whole nother you move in freedom because you know who
yeah.
you are, and whatever God decides to do, He does. Point is,
Mhm.
I just want to say, I know you've waited 2 years. I know it hasn't gone as fast as you wanted, homie. But I know, yeah, your best music is not out yet. And I believe that. You know what I mean? I'm not sitting here prophesizing. I'm just saying, like, it took me years to develop
I
my skill
respect.
and my it took me years to figure out like my talent and what I knew and like what was my niche and my voice. And okay, God, this is what you want me to do. And I feel the same way about you. Although you've been in it a minute, you've been through all kind of struggles, you fought, and you're on the positive end now. Like God hasn't made the best music with you yet. And I believe that. I'm excited for you because the stuff you're making is already dope and we know you can spit, but to see that you're growing and now to be bundled up 2 years and just be consuming of something greater that God has, I think is going to be a tremendous blessing. So I know you're excited about it. I can see by your
Yo, I'm
face.
excited. I'm grinning so hard. Thank you. Yo, I
Pero,
appreciate
I
it.
want to say that too, that that I'm excited for you. I believe in you, homie. Like I know you're gonna do great things, and you're just for a set group of people. Like God continued to tell me that, like when I was setting this up, I'm like, man, God, like yo no puedo just talk about that. So I don't know why, like, que con la gente. Yeah, they're gonna see it, pero like I just and even with the Ray King thing and all these other things, like I was like, man, she's just set for a group of people that not everybody is cool with, and that's fine. Because I feel like that time he set you up for is for like now. And this was my last question, and we're done after this. I love to ask people this because I feel like it gives them an eye into what they're looking to into the future. I thought, where do you see yourself 5 years from now if it's not music? Or do you think you still be doing music 5 years from now?
I, I could definitely see myself doing music. I don't think that it would be the number one thing though. I see myself, I see myself in a very, I don't want to say pastor because that word is just coming. It's like out of my mouth. It's just like, but I do see myself just in a different level of discipleship to people. Like I see myself serving people in a more just day-to-day way. And I definitely see myself married. I definitely see myself with children, at least one. And yeah, for me, I think my biggest two biggest dreams besides all this are to be a wife and a mother. So I think that those dreams will come true, and I believe that it'll also reflect in my music and in everything else that I do.
Well, let me tell you something, and then we're done here.
Let me tell you something. I know somebody. No, I'm
Let me
kidding.
no, I know somebody. He's in the G. No, listen, uh, babe, is Josiah here? Bring him over here. Let me tell you something. 7, 8 years ago, okay, my biggest dream was it was simple. Okay, I had two. You just said it. This like caught my attention, and whatever. I may cut this off or I may not, but I just want people to understand this. This is like one of the biggest testimonies in my life. 2 years ago, my biggest wants were one to have a house and two. Well, mentira. One was get a kidney, and two was have a son.
Yeah.
Okay, and then come here. This is my son. He's 7 years old. Come here, boy. Don't be scared. Come here. 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 You're 8. Come here. This is my son. This is my miracle child. 8 years ago, I prayed for this guy. Say hi to
Hi.
Ada. Her name is Ada. Say hi, Ada. 8 years ago, I prayed for this guy. We would cry, like there was all kind of stuff going on. And I was like, Jesus, all I want is one. People have 5, 6, 10 children. I have no kidney. I was going to dialysis, okay? This is all still doing ministry and everything. I was going to dialysis 3 times a week, okay? Nobody knew this stuff. And I was like, God, I just want a house, I want a kidney, I want a child. These 3 things, maybe you can see it fit to happen one day. You can go, Papito, because I know you're looking at me crazy. And in one span of a year, God did it all. Like he gave me a kidney. We had our child. I've been with my wife. I've been with my wife like 18, almost 19 years.
Wow.
A lot of nights crying, Allah, in bed,
Wow.
like, Father, like, you're succeeding in all these areas of my life personally. Why can't we have a child? Like, I just want one.
Wow.
And all this stuff happened, and God gave me Josiah. Josiah is a constant reminder of like what God can do, even when we don't see it there at the moment. And I'll tell you, girl, I was depressed, struck, and this is in ministry, doing radio, like people seeing the frown, the excitement, and thinking everything is Gucci, when in reality, you're just fighting tremenda. You're just going through it. And God saw it fit through. And so when I hear you say 5 years, a child, a husband, blah, 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 I can believe it. You know what I mean? Although we don't see it right now. And I'm not trying to be, I'm far from that overly religious dude. I'll keep telling you that because I came from that. And so like, God has really worked in my heart to be like, Father, I know those things exist, but at the same time, we got to put our part too. And so we're believing in faith. Okay, Father, these things are going to happen. And so now I look at Josiah, I'm like, Father, I want another one. Between me and you here talking like, Dios que me dé otro más. I just want one more. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, I remember that before we had Josiah, I was asking my wife, is it going to be a boy or a girl? We weren't sure. And I remember at a supermarket, this lady told me something that impacted me. And she was like, you're going to have a boy because he's going to continue your legacy. And I was like, oh, I don't want to hear all that church stuff. What you talking about? But it was true what she was saying. And so now I see that, and I know and this is a guy telling you all this with this testimony, and I lost my kidney like 2 years ago. So I'm back on dialysis. My son is seeing me struggle with physical ailment. I've lost all this weight. I'm trying to get another kidney, and I'm fighting all that and still believing in faith. God is going to do it. Like I got to do it because I got a son and I got a wife and a family and still a legacy to continue and still doing stuff like talking to people like you that inspire me to be like, yo, we got to continue going. Esta vaina no puede parar. So
what you do,